a light. Why? Because they know that if they go outside, it's windy outside, it's snowing outside, it's cold outside, there's a very strong chance that that candle would become extinguished. So what will they do? They'll keep themselves in a protected environment. And that's exactly what we were taught by the Prophet ﷺ, to be very particular about our environment. For the most part, stay in the masjid as much as possible. And if you're not in the masjid, stay at home as much as possible. And if you're not at home, then when you're out, it should be for the purposes that are necessary within the deen. And you're going to find these three things. I mean, the Prophet ﷺ's statements about leaving home, just alone, if you were to go through the hadith and look at the statements about leaving home, they are so intriguing. They're so eye-opening. The Prophet ﷺ was advising, you would not go out after dark if you knew what I knew, right? I mean, what kind of statements are those? They're highlighting to you that the environment out there is not what you think it is. It's not as safe as you think it is, and that you've been given this trust that needs to be kept burning. It needs to be kept alive. So we have to be very particular, because basically we have to get to our grave. It's a question of time, not distance, right? We're not required to take that Iman out into these varying places in the world to try to keep it alive, except with certain circumstances, like the fact that we need to work or go to school or whatever it might be. But for the most part, we're given control. So wouldn't it be much smarter to stay in a protective environment than in an environment where it'd be very easy for that flame to go out? So that's one other aspect of our Iman. The second or third aspect then relates to the fact that in certain places and in certain times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives individuals, or gives you the company of individuals who have the ability to refresh your flame. For example, just generally speaking, the Prophet ﷺ is the light of the deen, right? He is the representative of the deen. He's the one upon whom the deen was revealed in his heart. Then he took that flame, he took that vigor, he took that Iman, and he distributed it among his companions. They subsequently passed it on to the next generation. And they subsequently passed it on to the next generation. Now, in the process of that transferring, by the nature of Iman, it tends to become dimmer over time. Right? خَيْرُ الْقُرُونِ قَرْنِي ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ. The best of generations is my generation, then the one that follows, then the one that follows. Highlighting that as this Iman was passed, as this flame was passed from generation to generation, that light, the brightness of that Iman would be slowly dimming over time. Then the Prophet ﷺ also told us another thing, which is that every 100 years, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send a reviver. Okay? And this person would be a reviver of the deen. They would work among the people to bring their Iman back to a sustainable level, so that Iman would not be lost altogether. So here's basically what happens. The Prophet ﷺ comes with this perfect Iman, distributed among the Sahaba perfectly. Okay? So they are glowing, all in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ. Subsequently, he leaves them. They themselves describe Medina becoming darker the day he left. Okay? Then they subsequently have this Iman in their heart. They pass it on to the next generation, who then subsequently pass it on to the next generation. And over time, it begins to dim, meaning the whole community as a whole. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends revivers within the community, whether they be scholars, whether they be mashayikh, who then basically reignite the hearts of the community in order to bring that flame back to the most perfect level that it can exist within that particular generation. So, in the same way, just as we would, number one, protect our Iman, number two, we should put ourselves in environments where we can reignite our Iman. And those environments exist. And that's exactly what life is all about. It's about searching for those types of environments. When you have a place where you can go, where things can be, you could spend the whole week, or you could spend the whole month, or you could spend the whole year darkening that Iman, and all of a sudden you can come to a place where the person has one of those igniters, and they just basically ignite your heart and put it back to that level, then that's an enormous blessing, and we should take advantage of it. That's what Ramadan is about, for example. That's what Hajj is about, and Hajj is a great example of that. Basically, you see, it's amazing. You see all these people gather, right? And they come with just a flickering flame of Iman. They spent their time in the life of this world. They spent their time in very difficult environments. Many people come there with the hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save the last remnants of their faith, right? And then they come, and you can see that, you can even see it on the faces of people. People are coming there to become purified. They're coming there to reignite their Iman. And then, subhanAllah, once the Hajj is over, everybody is so energetic. Everybody looks so bright. Everybody's so focused. Right? It's just an incredible change that you begin to notice if you just sort of perceive it, one, within yourself, two, within the people you're with, and then three, within everybody there. And that's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created these oases where people can go and they can get reignited, where they can get their Iman, they can get their candle burning all again. So that's the other important aspect of our Iman, is that sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates people or places people within the community who have the ability to reignite our Iman. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates opportunities like Ramadan, like i'tikaf, or like the Hajj. So we should take advantage of all of those. When a candle, if you're looking at a candle and it's about to go out, what do? Just put your hand right around the flame, right? Then all of a sudden the flame comes back up, and then it goes up very high, and then it looks very bright and strong again. So in the same way, coming to the masjid for 5 times daily prayer is the exact same way. You have this candle, this flame of Iman in your heart, it's flickering, you're trying to keep it going, and then all of a sudden you come in the gathering of the masjid, it's like putting your hand around the candle, that flame goes straight up, and it becomes very strong again. So these types of gatherings for us, right, for the people who basically know that their primary focus in life is to take this Iman that's in their heart and take it with them into the grave so that it will provide light for them in the grave and on the day of judgment so that they'll be guided to Jannah, inshallah. For us, the job is very simple. We get very caught up in, this person is a physician, this person is a doctor, this person is a lawyer, this person is a student, etc. We're all the same. We're all carriers of a small flame. And we all have the opportunity we all have the responsibility of keeping that flame alive in our heart and passing away with it, and then giving that flame to our children and the subsequent people around, the other people around us, so that we can, inshallah, increase the overall light of the community, which is basically what the Prophet ﷺ's responsibility as placed upon us was, right? To keep our Iman alive and to hopefully guide a few other people along this path as well. So be very vigilant. Be very vigilant. And the worst thing to do is to pour water on one's Iman. That candle is never going to blaze. The problem with that type of candle is, number one, the flame goes out. And number two, people will sit with a torch, one of those flamethrowers. You can just melt the whole candle. It won't light again. The wick doesn't light again because it's wet. So the way we throw water on our Iman or water on that flame is by sinning. By knowingly sinning. One thing is you make a mistake, you slip. Another thing is that in the mind it's calculated, right? You're thinking, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to do it this way, and it doesn't matter. I don't care. That's when it becomes dangerous, right? And then all of a sudden that's like throwing water on top of the candle. Then what happens is, then once you do that, or once that mistake occurs, and then you want the flame to light again, it's very hard. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of effort. You have to let things dry out. You have to let things reset. You have to wash away the effect with the tears of the eyes, and then eventually that heart can be reignited. So, number one, protect your environment so that you don't even risk the flame flickering, right? Number two, stay in the environments where the flame is strong and where it can be reignited. And then number three, don't pour water on the flame, because it's going to be very difficult to keep it going in that case, and it's going to be very difficult to reignite it, even if you try to do so at a later time. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to preserve the Iman that's in our heart, to allow it to become strong and radiant, and to hopefully carry it with us to our grave. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.